Okay, good morning everybody, and Hazak Baruch. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Friday morning, Erev Shabbat Kodesh, as we are getting ready for Shabbat and we are getting ready for Perashat Vayera. And I would like to actually today talk about the Perashah, but I would like to talk about the Perashah through something that we are all familiar with. It's a chapter or part of a chapter in Mishle, okay? I want to today go through some verses in the famous song that we sing every Friday night, and that is Eshet Hayil. Okay, so if you haven't Mishle, please open up to chapter 31. Okay, Mishle chapter 31. And actually Eshet Hayil begins in Pasuk 10. Okay, it begins in the middle of the chapter. And Eshet Hayil really, what is it? What is Eshet Hayil? What is Eshet Hayil? Eshet Hayil is a tribute, right? On a simple level, it's a tribute to the mother of the home. It's blessing her, praising her. Hayil, by the way, is a woman of valor. Okay, so Eshet Hayil is praising the wife of the house who toils to the needs of her family. Okay, and she is the foundation of the home. She creates the warmth of the house, the temperature in the house. She's the one that instills the children with Torah, with Chesed, with Mitzvots. Okay, so Eshet Hayil is simply referring to the lady of the house, and it's a song that the husband sings for the wife every Friday night. It's a beautiful song, really, if you think about it. And there's a lot of depth to it. There's a lot going on in the Eshet Hayil. And by the way, if you notice, it's composed based on the 22 letters of the Aleph Bet. So it begins with Aleph, Eshet Hayil, then it goes to Bet, Batah Ba, Gimel, so on and so forth. And maybe one of the ideas over here is that just like Hashem gave the Torah to the Jewish people by means of these 22 letters of the Aleph Bet, so too Hashem praises the righteous lady with the 22 letters of the Aleph Bet. Okay, so this is the lady's song. Usually when a lady passes away, they pick a pasuk from Eshet Hayil sometimes, and they put it on her matzeva. But whatever the point is, a lot of beautiful messages and a lot of richness to the Eshet Hayil. Okay? Now, the truth is that Eshet Hayil is also, our rabbis tell us in the Midrash, a song that Avraham Avinu himself sang when Sarah passes away. So as an example, next week we're going to enter Perashat Hayil Sarah. Okay? And our rabbis tell us next week that when Avraham eulogized Sarah Imenu, who passed away because of the Akedah news that she heard, that's what we believe in our tradition. So Avraham sang for her Eshet Hayil. So today I would like to go through some of the psukim in Eshet Hayil and just to maybe give some insights. When we're saying it every single week. And sometimes we don't realize maybe what we're saying. Obviously, like any pasuk that we're going to ever explain, there's 70 ways plus to explain it. So today we're just going to give a few insights. Some of what we're going to say is actually taken from this beautiful website over here, Chabad.org. Okay, and on Chabad.org, there's a rabbi whose name is Rabbi Bogomilsky. And he has this section here called Vedibarta Bam. Excellent stuff, questions and answers on Chumash, on Perashah. He has over here a section on Eshet Hayil. Okay? And if we actually work backwards, okay, let's work backwards from the letter Shin. The pasuk says, Sheker hahen vehevel hayofi. Grace is false and beauty is vain. Okay? Now again, the question here is, obviously, we don't marry someone for beauty. Physical grace is not something that's worthy of serious praise. But does it have no value at all? Why is it false? Why is it sheker? Sheker, it's false? Not false. I wouldn't say money is sheker. I would say that it's not a priority. It's not what you should spend your life on. False. Sheker achen. Grace is sheker. Vehevel hayofi. Beauty is nothing. It's not nothing. By the way, there's a halacha that a man is not allowed to marry a lady unless he sees what she looks like. Now, we don't want any surprises the next morning. Whoa, what's going on here? I don't know. Both ways we don't want surprises, She may also see and be like, actually having second thoughts here. We don't want that happening. He has to see her. And there's actually an interesting question. How come Avraham says to his wife Sarah, as they're getting down to Egypt, Hinena yadati, I now realize how beautiful you are. But what about the halacha that you're supposed to know what your wife looks like? Did Avraham not know what Sarah looked like until then? Only now he realizes how beautiful? Okay, so there's different ways of explaining what exactly Avraham meant. Also, the word sheker ha-hen. What's ha-hen? The grace. What's the grace? That's not usually, I wouldn't put the word the before the word grace. I would just say sheker chen. Grace is sheker. What's ha-chen? So the answer that's given over here, beautiful thought. Friday night, we say the chapters from Masechet Shabbat, chapter 2, Bameh Madlikin. In the synagogue, if you ever prayed in synagogue Friday night, we read Mishnayot, part of the prayers. The Chazan sings them, beautiful melody. And it says over there that a lady, right? A lady has 3 specific mitzvot that apply to her more than to the husband. Okay? So, and we read this on Friday night, and it says, Al shalosh averot, 3 sins that a lady has to be very careful from, or else she could be in danger when she's in time of labor. Labor is a very dangerous situation. So usually when a person's in a dangerous situation, they have to be extra careful because now they're susceptible to maybe falling into mazikim, into certain danger. Okay, so 3 things that a lady is careful over, and it's really, these are her mitzvot. Anyone know what the 3 are? What are the 3 lady mitzvot? I don't know if that's the right phrase, but what are the 3 women mitzvot? Number 1, chala, very good. Nerot and nida. Okay? It says over here in Masechet Shabbat, chapter 2, Mishnah 6, Al shalosh averot nashim metot b'shat ledatan. 3 averot that a lady has to be careful of that could put her in danger. Al she'enan zeirot, if they're not careful, on nida, chala, and hadlakat haner. Okay? The law of menstruation, the law of separating a portion from the kneaded dough, and the kindling of Shabbat candles. Matter of fact, if a lady wants to light Shabbat candles and her husband says, listen, honey, if it's okay with you, I would like to light them this week. So you're only allowed to light 1 per house. They can't both do it. He wants to light and she wants to light. She has the right to say, listen, this is my mitzvah. Stand down, soldier. Okay? This is my mitzvah. So, one of the reasons that's given in Masechet Shabbat, Rashi explains, it says in Masechet Shabbat, page 32, as follows, that Chava caused really Adam to sin. She ate, she gave him to eat. Hey, honey, here's some lunch. And because of that, forever and ever and ever, now man became mortal. God says to Adam, the day you eat, you're going to die. And because he ate, now he no longer lives forever. So what she did is she really, in a way, extinguished his neshama. She extinguished the candle of the world. She extinguished man's life. And therefore she has to engage in the lighting of a candle on Friday night. That's why it's preferable, by the way, to use shemen, oil. I don't know if you use oil. Many ladies use wax, and that's okay. But better to use oil. Why? Because shemen is the same letters as neshama. Okay? It's alluding to that tikkun that she has to do. Okay? She extinguished the neshama of Adam by bringing death to the world, and therefore the tikkun is lighting the shemen. Okay. Then she also caused his blood to be shed now, and therefore she has to observe the laws of menstruation. And the third one, Adam was actually made from a portion of the earth. The pasuk says that God took dough, he took dirt, he kneaded it with water, and he created man. And therefore, Adam in a way is like the chala of the world. Adam himself is chala. Right? Think about all of the world, and then Adam is a piece of that. That's what chala is. You take all the dough, you take the batch, and you separate a piece of dough. And therefore, for causing his eventual loss from the world, she is assigned the mitzvot of separating chala from the dough. Okay, so these are the three things. And if you take the three, hadlakat haner, chala, nida, what do they spell? What's the acronym of the three? Hadlaka, right? Hala and nida, it's hachen. Right? Hey, het, nun. Sheker hachen, says Shlomo HaMelech. The wise of all men, he is saying that if a woman falsifies and does not observe these three meticulously, and which are the hachen, then hevel hayofi, regardless of how beautiful she may be physically, her beauty is vain and of no value or significance. The truly beautiful woman is the one who fears Hashem. So these are the three mitzvot alluded to in the word hachen. Beautiful way of understanding the pasuk. Okay, we move a little bit further or earlier into the Eshet Hayil. Let's go to the letter Chaf. Kapa paresa le'ani veyadeha sheleha la'evyon. Okay, so what does that mean? It means she holds out her hand to the poor and extends her hands to the destitute. Kaf is a palm. She holds out her palm to the poor. Veyadeha, and her hands she gives to the evyon. Evyon is even more poor than ani. Okay, so she helps the poor, she helps the destitute. If you know grammar, you'll notice right away the question. It begins in singular, her hand, her palm, kapa. But then it very quickly continues to yadeha, her hands. Why is it inconsistent? It should have said veyada sheleha la'evyon. A fantastic question. Okay? You're going to appreciate if you know grammar. It begins in singular form. She extends her palm. But then it says her hands with an S plural form. You know, giving tzedakah, rabotai, is a very, very big mitzvah and a very beautiful mitzvah. It's even greater in the case that the one who's giving is having a difficult time to give. If you're a billionaire and you give, it's nice. But if you're just making it and you give, right? You're making ends meet, you're just struggling to put bread on the table, and then you give, that's even more beautiful, right? Even harder, you cannot compare when a regular guy gives and a rich guy gives. Much harder for the regular guy, okay? So, what is the reward? The reward of someone who gives when it's difficult is that Hashem, God willing, will give this person the ability to give when it becomes, if they give when it's difficult, God makes it easier for them to give. The reward of giving is that Hashem gives you. So if one is having a hard time to give, but they could still find it in themselves to give to other people and extend a hand and to help other people, the reward is that Hashem will give you the ability to give much, much more. So Shlomo HaMelech is alluding to all of this. What he says in Eshet Hayil, to the woman of valor. And she stretches out her hand to the poor. Her hand is one. She could only afford to give one hand, so to speak. She could only help a little bit. She can't give a lot. She would like to give a lot. She would like to give much more, but she can't. Unfortunately, she only gives one hand. She only gives kapa. And Shlomo HaMelech says, but don't worry, because the blessing, the beracha, is that ultimately she will be able to give veyadeha with both of her hands to the needy people. So this is a beautiful lesson. And again, this is something that she teaches her children, because the mother of the home is the one who is being mechanech and educating the children. And she teaches them all these beautiful midot and chesed and all the different ways of conducting ourselves in the house. She teaches her children that in life we have to help even no matter what we're going through. And really that connects to the next pasuk that I want to talk about, and that is the letter Vav. Okay, so let us go to the letter Vav. The pasuk says, Vatakom be'od laila vatiten teref lebeta. Vav. Vav means she wakes up while it's night, and she gives food to her family. Okay? That's seemingly a praise for this Eshet Hayil. She wakes up at night to give food to her family. Now let us ask a question. Nighttime is usually, I don't know about you, but in my house, at night we're sleeping. Okay? So, I don't know what's so special about a lady feeding her family at night. I would actually be very annoyed if my mother, when I was a kid, woke me up at 2 a.m., said, Ariel, come here, honey, I got you some sambusek. Come, wake up. Here you go. Here, have something to eat. Mom, I know, you love feeding me all the time, but I'm sleeping, Could it wait till 6 a.m. till I wake up, please? Just imagine the mother waking up her family every 2 hours to feed them. What do you mean, vatakom be'od laila? She gets up and she feeds her family at night. At nighttime, I don't want to be fed. I want to be sleeping. Nighttime, Rabotai, is actually, though, an allusion to difficult times. Yeah? Nighttime means when it's hard. Night is dark, when we don't see clearly. There are moments in life that are daytime, beautiful, alive, movement, growth. Night is dormant. Nighttime is when it's difficult. Sometimes we have moments of day, and sometimes we're going through moments of darkness. We're going through difficult times. It could be right now with what we're going through with the pandemic. It could be maybe financially something that we're going through, and the word teref, which is in the pasuk, it means food. She gives food to her family. But the word teref also has a numerical value of 289. Write that down, 289. Okay? What is the square root of 289? Is 17. 17 we know is the gematria of Tov. Tov is good. When you take Tov, which is 17, and you multiply it by itself, the highest expression, the greatest, most ultimate, highest degree of goodness is 289. 17 times 17, 289. And says Shlomo HaMelech in praising of the Eshet Hayil, a real, true, dedicated mother, is that even in times of Laila, even when it's difficult, even when it's night, even when they're struggling, even when things are hard, when the family is going through something, when there's a hardship, Vatakom, she arises above it. The mother of the home is able to have the emunah that she needs to pull her family through the darkest of times with love and devotion, and she provides teref. She provides, what does teref mean? She provides 17 times 17, the best of her abilities that she can to her family. What a beautiful, beautiful praise of the Eshet Hayil. Well, we continue, and this is what I would like to talk about today. And the pasuk says, Daresha tzemer upishtin. Fata'as behefet kapeha. This is going to be the last pasuk for today. And it means simply, she looks for wool and flax and sets her hand to them with a will. Okay, so again, we all know what this means. Simply, it means that she's making clothing for her children. So she gets the wool, she gets the flax, and fata'as behefet kapeha, she makes with her hands, she makes beautiful clothing for her family. Today, lady makes the clothing by going to the store. She shops for her children. It's not easy. You have to go try them. I went one time I went with my kids to get them clothing. Never again. Not me, no sir. They're nagging. I want to go. I want to play. The lady sitting there nagging children, waiting for the person in the store to help you. It's difficult. Okay, so the Eshet Hayil is, she's looking for wool, she's looking for flax, and she sets her hands to them with a will. But you know what's very interesting? That is, that we know something interesting about these two pieces of material. Tzemer upishtim, wool and flax, or maybe let me rephrase that, wool and linen. What do we know about wool and linen? Wool and linen are a big no-no. What kind of mother are you? What kind of praise? Oh, what a tzadeket. She's giving her children sha'atnez. That's not a good mother. She's giving her children to sin. Here you go. Here, honey, here's some pork. I got you some nice good pork. That's not a praise. Why, of all pieces of clothing, does Shlomo HaMelech pick tzemer upishtim, wool and linen? And this is how we're going to connect it to our parasha for today. And this will be the last thought for today's class. And we know in our parasha we read about Avraham, who is going around everywhere he goes. He has one goal in mind. His goal is to spread monotheism. That's Avraham's mission. Everywhere he goes. And he's going around, he's going from place to place, and he ends up in Gerar, in a place called Gerar. And Avimelech, who's the king over there, sees Sarah, and this is nothing new to us. We know the story. Happened before in Egypt, happens all the time, happens with Rivka. This is something that happened again and again and again and again. That they saw them, they thought they were beautiful, and they had to make believe that they were, brother and sister. Because if there was a husband, then maybe someone would want to kill him to take her as a wife. So he said, she's my sister, and I'm, watching over her. Well, when Avimelech finds out that Sarah is single, because, it's her brother, so he takes her, and God, warns him, don't touch her, she's actually married. Okay. And that night, Avimelech became actually sterile. Avimelech, and he bugged out because he said, whoa, what's going on over here? I'm not going to be able to have children anymore. Hashem clogged all of the pipes for them to be able to use the facilities. So what happened? Avimelech goes to him and he says, here, listen, here's your wife. I didn't know she's your wife. I apologize. I wish you would have told me. Let's speak, let's figure this out. And please, could you pray for me that Hashem should open up, all my pipes again? So Avraham prays for Avimelech. And actually, because he prayed for Avimelech to be healed, Avraham himself, so to speak, was healed. And Sarah right after that gives birth. The story right after this in the Chumash is that Sarah gives birth. And from here we learn a big lesson. The lesson that we learn is that if you pray for your friend who needs the same thing that you need, you'll get an answer first. So that's why it's a very beautiful custom. Many organizations today do this. When someone is going through a crisis, they swap names with another couple. They pray for each other, and that is a way of getting each one hopefully getting answered. There's a crazy story that my wife has about a friend. I forget the details, but there was a couple that was trying to conceive, and there was a girl who was trying to get married, and each one prayed for the other. And the day that the first couple conceived and had a child, the second girl went out on her first shidduch, who she ended up marrying. Okay, true story. Okay, I heard this one from my wife. So there's a very strong thing about praying for other people. Okay, praying for someone else. Very important to always pray achdut and becoming a unit. But you know what? The Gemara says that there were a lot of letzanim. The rabbis tell us that there were a lot of hooligans, clowns, critics, we could call them. There were a lot of critics that when Sarah gave birth, you know what they said? They said, we know what happened. She was abducted by Avimelech for one night, and they had a child together. And this child is actually not Abraham's son. This child is Avimelech's son. That's what critics started to say. Now, the whole thing doesn't make sense because Avraham was not the issue. Avraham's not the one that couldn't conceive. Avraham already had Ishmael. But this is what the Litzanim was saying, that it's not Avraham's son, it's Avimelech's son. You understand the danger, by the way, of such statements. Yeah, you mean Abraham's seed is extinct. You're destroying the seed of Abraham. You're continuing Abraham through only Ishmael. Abraham's only child is now Ishmael, and that's that. So what happens over here is that God had to actually go out of his way and make a very big miracle. Anyone know what was the miracle that God did to lay at ease all of these critics' accusations? God actually made Yitzchak look identical to Avraham. Sometimes a kid looks like the father, sometimes it looks like the mom, sometimes it looks like both, sometimes you're not sure, right? But with Yitzchak, there was no question about it. Yitzchak, we knew 100% Yitzchak belonged to Avraham Avinu. And the Pasuk says, Ele Toledot Yitzchak ben Avraham. We're going to read in 2 weeks from now. Okay, it's the most important parasha because it's my parasha. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, it is a very important parasha. And it says over there that Yitzchak, these are the children, you ready? Of Yitzchak. By the way, Avraham gave birth to Yitzchak. That's the Pasuk. The Pasuk says, Avraham gave birth to Yitzchak. Very good. Rashi says Hashem made a miracle that Avraham looked identical to his son Yitzchak in order to remove all of the jokes that everybody was saying, that really Yitzchak was Avimelech's son. Okay? But you know what the problem over here was? And just to show you how far these accusations went, these claims, that actually not only were people saying it, but who else was saying it? Yishmael himself was saying it. Abraham's own son was actually saying, and the Pasuk says that Sarah noticed that Ishmael was metzachek. What does metzachek mean? By the way, there's a lot of laughter going on. Abraham's laughing when he hears he's going to have a child. Then Sarah laughs. Then they name the child Yitzchak. Yeah, they name him Yitzchak, which means to laugh. Which is, by the way, a very beautiful lesson. We know that Yitzchak's midah, what was his midah? What was he known for? His strength, Abraham's strength was chesed. Right? Yaakov's strength was emet, honesty. What was Yitzchak's strength? So his strength was actually strength. Gevurah. Right? Gevurah, discipline. Because in life, to be disciplined and to be strong, one needs to have a laughing attitude at whatever comes your way. If you're going to succeed, there's going to be a lot of haters, there's going to be a lot of critics. You have to be able to stare them down and laugh at them and roll your eyes and say, yeah, laugh away. Go ahead, make fun of me. We got to be tough. If we're going to make it in this world, there's going to be a lot of people who are negative. We got to be strong. We got to show for ourselves, I'm the number one. You should know that. That's what we should be. That's what we have to be able to do. We have to be able to laugh at life's obstacles. And that's what Yitzchak does. He laughs and laughs. But then Ishmael comes and Ishmael's laughing. And Rashi says he was a bad influence. Rashi says he was doing avodah zarah, giloy arot, shefichut damim. He was guilty of the 3 cardinal sins. Right? That's what Rashi says. And so it was being a bad influence on Isaac, on Yitzchak. But Seforno says actually that he was laughing and there was a joke going around. The joke, like we said already, was that everyone was saying that Yitzchak wasn't Abraham's son. And Ishmael starts laughing. He starts laughing. It's pretty cute. Maybe it's true. I don't know. Who knows? You never know. Maybe it's true. And he starts wondering, maybe it's true. Maybe Abraham is not the father of Yitzchak. And if that's the case, the only heir of Abraham is Ishmael. And Sarah doesn't like that. Sarah realizes what's going on and she goes over to Abraham and she says, get him out. Garesh et ben ha'amah hazot. Get rid of this lady. Get rid of this kid. Because why? What's the pasuk say? Ki lo yirash ben ha'amah hazot. Because he shall not inherit with my son Yitzchak. Now what does that simply mean? That simply means that Sarah was a little bit greedy and she wanted him to leave so that he should not inherit with Isaac. But says the Seforno, means the exact opposite. She was actually saying kick him out because he doesn't want to share with my son Yitzchak. He's the one that's being stubborn. He's the one that's saying Yitzchak really is Avimelech's son. He doesn't want to inherit with Yitzchak, and therefore I cannot tolerate such jokes, because today it's a joke, but you never know, maybe when we die, Ishmael will start claiming that for real, and therefore show everyone who's your real son. And Abraham was very hard for him to do this. He didn't want to do it. This was actually maybe the first disagreement that's recorded in the Torah. Abraham and Sarah, should we kick out Ishmael? Sarah said yes, Abraham said no. Until God had to come and be the final deciding factor. And whose side does God go on? Hashem chooses Sarah. Hashem agrees to Sarah, kick out Ishmael. Okay? And we learn from here that Sarah was actually a greater prophetess than Avraham Avinu. Okay, now the truth is not hard to understand why. Because in order to receive prophecy, like we've been talking about lately, includes a lot of meditation. Spending a lot of time with myself, in my thoughts. In order to prophesy, that's what you need to do. You need to go into a room alone and prepare yourself constantly. Avraham Avinu was always doing chesed. So that's why Avraham's level of prophecy maybe wasn't as great. He wasn't able to constantly concern himself with himself. He was always doing for other people. So Sarah, God says she's right. Go ahead, kick out Ishmael. And because Ishmael delegitimizes Yitzchak, he has to go. And so, that's what happens. Now, if that's the case, let's go back to our pasuk in Eshet Hayil. Daresha tzemer upishtim. What does that mean? Daresha tzemer upishtim means, simply it could mean that she seeks out some wool, some linen, she makes clothing. But lidrosh, doresh, is also when a rabbi gives a derasha is to expound, to learn from. And maybe what the pasuk says in Eshet Hayil, and like we said, Eshet Hayil was written primarily also for Sarah Imenu. Daresha tzemeru fishtim. She expounded, she learned from tzemeru fishtim, from wool and linen. And we know about wool and linen that those two cannot go together. Wool and linen are two things that must stay apart. And where do we know that from, by the way? The Zohar says, you know why wool and linen are no good together? Because go back to the first time those two are ever mentioned in the Torah. The first time they're mentioned is by Cain and Hayil. We know Cain was a farmer. Hayil was a shepherd. Cain brings some linen to God, some flax. And Hayil copies him, and he also brings some wool to God. And we know how the story plays out. Cain got very jealous. He kills his brother Hayil. So wool and linen were two factors that led to the first murder in history. The wool from Hayil, the linen from Cain. So God says, keep the two away. These two are not good together. And really the depth is, stay away from machloket. Stay away from hatred. Stay away from what Cain and Hayil got into. Stay away from jealousy. Sarah learns from Hayil, from Cain. She learns from tzemer upishtim, that sometimes in life two things could be okay alone, but together they're not good. You stay away from him, you stay away from him. And because of that, it was important. Now Abraham disagreed. Abraham said, no, keep them together. We will work on Ishmael, we'll educate him. But Sarah says, no, you got to kick him out. And therefore, Daresha Tzemeru Fishtim, by learning from the wool and linen, Sarah realized, and using her intuition and her intelligence, that this is not a good union. So anyways, these are a few psukim from Eshet Hayil. We say every week, every Friday night, and hopefully tonight when we say them, we'll understand these psukim a little bit better, and we'll be able to apply them. We'll stop over here. Wishing everyone a Shabbat Shalom. We'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.